Welcome to another episode of People Innovation Insights. My name is Kiara Tumeno and I'm here with my co-host Yeah, and today we will be taking you through the how organizational culture shapes communication strategies and outcomes. And today in the studio we have a beautiful woman with us, Ritabile Muhono from Mayerton Straight in the Val. Hello everyone. How are you doing?
I'm good, thanks. How are you, sir?
I'm good. Can you please give us a brief background of who are you, what do you do, and where do you come from?
Okay, so as you mentioned, my name is Ritabile Muhono and I am the CEO of Tabi Jewels. So I started Tabi Jewels in 2021. Ever since then, we've had 8 outlets across the country, and we are a luxury jewelry brand. As you can see, I'm wearing my spring collection. Yes. Yeah, it's not yet in stores, but it's going to be. I just felt like I needed to show it off. Yes.
So, can you explain how it feels to be part of Tabi Jewels, like to be an employee at Tabi Jewels, like the organizational culture? How is it for you and your employees?
Okay, so firstly, I like to refer to my employees as my team. Right? I'd like to believe from the employee's perspective, the workplace is fun. As we know, like work is tiring, right? And we have to find ways to make this place enjoyable somehow.
Yes.
So for my organization, I'd say we strive a lot on collaboration, right? It's a very collaborative environment. I always push the notion that just be kind to everyone, you know, and if you're struggling, you can get help from anyone that you need help from. Everybody is willing to assist each other to help us reach our goals as an organization, because we can't work in silos, right? It's not going to be effective. So
yeah. So I heard you mention collaboration, unity, practicing kindness through your organization. So would you take us through on how or what measures or activities that you do as an organization to practice that collaborations? Do you have maybe, for instance, rituals that you do to practice the organizational culture within your organization?
Also a way of bringing everybody together.
Yes.
So in my organization, it's full of young people, right? And as you know, young people like events, having fun and all that. So we normally have, I think every company has a year-end function, so we have that as well. For Heritage Day, we do a braai, we get together. And I have this little thing I do on Mondays where I call it the Monday debrief. So I gather everyone in the morning and they get to talk about their weekend, what they struggled with, what they learned maybe, what they did, just so that everybody can, find the enthusiasm to work, because sometimes we get lost in the conversation and it takes time. So I want to make a designated time for those kinds of conversations, and then we can get back to work and focus.
Okay. There's this term called reputational image, where the external parties, they perceive the external and internal parties, they perceive the organization. On how they see it and everything. So how do you ensure that the people within your organization, the internal stakeholders, they represent your Tabi Jewels well, even when they are outside the organization? How do you keep the consistency within the organization? Because even if they may not be at work, but if they are working within the organization, they are bound to present the organization even when they're outside. Yeah.
So, firstly, I have a rule. It's not really a rule, but I have this thing where I say to them, in terms of dressing-wise, presentation-wise, I tell them, listen, if I tell you that you're going to meet the CEO of another jewelry brand and you're going to have to present to him, you must be presentable enough, because it could happen at any moment. So if you're going to leave your house and you feel that I can't meet a CEO looking like this, you can't do that, right? I don't really have strict rules on how you must dress, but it's also part of the self, you decide what you want to look like. And everybody knows that I love gold jewelry. So I feel like, in a sense, my team has sort of adapted my personality. I see the gold accents a lot with how they dress, and I always push the notion to be kind to everyone. So if you meet a Tabby Jewel employee, sorry, you'd see in their demeanor they're very kind, they're very sophisticated, calm, not all these loud, rowdy, whatever. Just yes.
Okay, would you say, in terms of that, like speaking about that, would you say that you somehow have maybe like a control over what your employees post? Because I mean, if you are an employee at Tabby Jewels, you have to represent the brand, you know. So you can't just, for example, if I'm working for Bible Innovations, I can't be going out and posting inappropriate things because I represent Bible Innovations, you know.
Yeah, I think it's because we have policies in place on what you're allowed to post and what you're not allowed to post. For as much as I don't like rules and making the environment feel very strict and rigid, but there are measures that need to be put in place. So we have company policies on what can be posted and what cannot be posted.
I really love how you monitor, and you sound like you have everything under control. But can you talk about the challenges that are bound to happen, you know, within an organization? Because obviously every organization has its own challenges, you know, problems are bound to happen and everything, unexpectedly, of course. But like, how do you deal with those challenges? Ensuring that you don't lose the organizational culture, you know, such things like conflicts are bound to happen, you know, and people may split, you know, there may be like separation amongst everyone, pardon me, you know. So how do you ensure that regardless of what happens, you know, the challenges and everything, how do you ensure the crisis that may arise, you know, how do you manage crisis? Do you have any specific communication or management that you do to ensure that you keep the consistency of your organizational culture?
Okay, so for example, I like saying that in this team, it's like a marriage, right? We talk our issues.
What a perfect example.
Yes, we have to talk about our issues, right? I'll make an example. In 2023, right, one of our major shareholders pulled out on us. And that took a very big hit on our finances, right? So my employees were worried about their jobs, like they're starting to think, am I going to get fired, you know, and I'm going to cut jobs. Yeah. So I had to reassure them, like, listen, we're a team, right? And for my organization to get to where it's at, it's all because of your hard work. So I can't just cut you off like that, right? So unfortunately, I had to take a hefty loan to compensate for that. And gladly we found a new shareholder, you know, we found more sponsors to help us, because from 2023 until now, we were just working to reimburse all the money that we lost, right? So right now we're making profit again. So I'd say we've stayed afloat, and I try to motivate my team that, listen, we're all in this together, right? We're gonna face this together. We're gonna conquer this battle, and as you can see, we have conquered it.
And one thing, talking about challenges, you shared a very beautiful story about yourself and your team. And there's been an African bank case study. What happens is this African bank is usually seen as a very inclusive and Africanized, as very involving within like how it's perceived online, right? It's very perceived as very trustworthy, embodying traditional roles, and then something opposite happens, and then an employee comes out on a podcast and then bashes the African bank, tells them, and they say, hey, African Bank is not really embodying the values that they say on all these adverts that they tell to us online. What they say, the employee felt very pressured, very not satisfied about the managers treating them in a very unpleasant way. What do you think about when those certain type of issues come arise, or what do you think about overall about that issue?
Okay, in a case like that, we can see that there are barriers, right? There are some form of inconsistencies with how the organization perceives itself and how the employees behave, right? So an organization has its goals, right? They have their intended way of how they want their employees to behave. So in a case like that, where you're preaching this idea but you're not living the values, it calls for you to go back to the drawing board and really ask yourself, what is it that I stand for as a company? What is it that I want to see in the people that work for me, the people that are associated with me, right? Because we try to avoid situations where employees go rogue and they will ruin your reputation, and now you're dealing with damages to your reputation and all that sort of stuff. So I think it just calls for the organization to go back to the drawing board and see what they really stand for, what are their values, what are their mission in the society.
That was a very good comparison, on how other organizations overcome challenges, yeah.
So we can learn a thing or two from Rita Bile, from Tabby Jules, because I feel like Tabby Jules, their core values are not only on paper, but they practice what they preach, right? Yeah. So coming to other organizations, like the example that he just gave us, can you differentiate between a good one and maybe a bad one?
Okay, I don't want to say bad.
Oh yeah.
Sometimes
they can learn
yes. But sometimes what they do that kind of falls under the bad works for them, so we can't really say that. But I'd say they should organizations should avoid a very strict environment, like, for example, too many rules, because people feel caged in, boxed in. They don't feel the sense of freedom, right? And a very authoritarian leadership style, that is not good, because if you dictate to people, you must do this, you must do that, and the boss's way is the right way, where is the critical thinking in that? Where is the platform for the other opinions that could possibly help you solve the solution that you're possibly facing, right? So I'd say organizations should avoid that sort of leadership style and try to find ways to incorporate their employees in their decisions and everything.
That was a very good one, Lee. So I have the last question before we close. Rita, what is that one advice that you would give organizations, on how to practice a good organizational culture? Do you have perhaps an advice for them?
I'd say practice what you preach. I'd say activities, team building activities, they help boost the morale a bit, Work can't just be all about work all the time. Yes, we have things that we need to do. Yes, we have goals that we're trying to reach, but try to make it a fun environment. At the end of the day, we are people. We are going through a lot, You don't know if your little get-together session is going to help somebody, boost them for the rest of the week, you understand? So, yeah.
I hope you guys there took notes for today's episode. And that is all from us today. Pebble Innovation Insight. Catch the next episode on core competences of communication practitioners. And remember to stay curious and culturally connected.